Yo, hey, welcome to Unfair Sports Season 5, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Thank you for checking us out wherever you consume your content. While you are there picking and choosing, make sure you like, subscribe, rate us, and review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Meh, give us 5 anyway.
Gifted.
All right, so on today's episode of Unfair Sports, where we start season 5, episode 1, free agency blows up in the NBA. We've got a lot of storylines to talk through. The beginning of training camp, and we need to talk about who's going to lose their job and who ain't going to lose their job. Winners and losers in that NBA free agency, as well as our Thunder Weekly Update. Make sure you hit us up on the Unfair Fan Line, 430-901-1906, and leave us a message, and you can end up on the show. As well as we do this on the podcast, we also do this on the YouTube. So go check us out, search Unfair Sports, like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring, and of course, leave a comment and tell us how awesome my takes are and how terrible that guy's are. I'm kidding. Whew.
Jam Master J.
Jimmy, what it do, baby?
Season 5.
Season 5, man. We've been doing this thing going on 5 years now.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
yeah.
I can't believe we actually stuck to it. I'm actually proud of you. I figured that you would have fallen off by now.
It has not been easy, coming here week after week, having to look at that poor excuse on your neck that you call a face.
Exactly.
That I've enjoyed being off and not having to look at the last 3 weeks.
You enjoy beating off. What?
Being off, being away from this show, not having to see your face. It's your face that I'm talking about.
Wow, the disrespect here.
Yeah.
I actually thoroughly have enjoyed the break from visually dealing with your aesthetically challenged nostrils. And all
aesthetically not challenged, Jay. I told you that before the show started. Not
challenged. But no, it's been awesome that we've been doing this, going on, like I said, 5th year.
Yeah.
We're doing nothing but trying to get better and grow. So please give us your feedback. Let us know what you think. Things you'd like to hear or whatnot. As we continue to grow in the game, we will be tight, be casket sharp moving forward as we continue to grow in the game. I did want to say one thing before we get started fully. I want to really give a special shout out to our boy Adrian James, making the Hall of Fame.
Margarine James, my guy.
Hey, exactly. And Edge. First one with locks on the bus. So you had the Ed Reed fro a couple years back, and then you got now the locks.
Now, he had those locks his entire career, didn't he?
He's had those locks.
It still does. It still does, yeah.
To this day. I can see some trim to the right size that he likes, and he sits on them. So as I'm on my lock journey, I think it's beautiful seeing him. I got mine braided up today as I'm going to pull them down tomorrow, but because I've been being lazy. But it was great seeing him with the locks on the bus. She was pretty dope. I ain't gonna lie, it was dope. So
true.
With that, let's dive into this. We've been out a couple weeks, as you all know. We've got a lot of stuff that's been coming. We're going to be adding some segments. We're going to make some changes to the show format. I'll talk about that in the closing. Again, check out the YouTube page, unfairsports.com, for additional content that you will see more of coming soon. But we got to start with NBA free agency. As we were off the last 2.5 weeks-ish, NBA Finals end. We went to the NBA draft. Then the NBA free agency starts. All hell has broken loose. All kinds of major signings with major teams, from people moving around to Kyle Lowry going to Miami to Jimmy Butler getting an extension to Dallas not figuring out how to get anybody, Kemba Walker getting bought out. It's so many moving parts and pieces, but the big one of them all that everybody's been talking about for the last week and a half that we haven't given you all our opinion on is the movement by the Lakers. The Lakers have made some big time free agency movements. What do I mean by that? Well, they started off by making a trade. They traded with the Washington Wizards and got Russell Westbrook back home to LA. They added onto that, after getting Russell Westbrook, Trevor Ariza signed as a free agent. Dwight Howard decided to make his valiant return to LA for the 3rd time or 4th. This is the 4th time. 3rd time he's been in LA. 3rd time. 3rd time in LA. He ain't won a ring with them. In 2020, he was there with Kobe before, so here's his 3rd time with them. And then they were able to actually add some young people, kinda. They got Kent Bazemore, actually same age as Russell Westbrook. Then they got Nunn, Kendrick Nunn, and then you got Malik Monk, and then they re-signed THT. So the Lakers are looking old. If you look at, if I'm correct, the average age is like 31 years old or something like that.
31.8
which
ish.
is technically ancient in NBA terms.
True.
So Jimmy, we have to ask this question, especially because LeBron James is starting to see all of our chatter. Is it fair or unfair to say that the LA Lakers are too damn old to win a championship in today's NBA?
I'm going to say it's unfair. You know, it's amazing. And I think a big part of why this is even an issue is because of LeBron James. It just seems like every 1 to 2 years, there's this sort of new creative type of criticism of LeBron as far as why he can't win a title.
Yep.
And this is the latest. I did not see this coming. I mean, obviously no one did because no one knew exactly what the Lakers' plans were going to be in order to sign this many veterans. But I think that that's totally unfair. For one, it's what everybody is saying. And usually if everyone is saying the exact same thing, I get immediately skeptical because when you group a bunch of people together, a lot of times they're absolutely wrong. So, you know, I mean, Vegas does that all the time. If you're the favorite and everybody's leaning that direction, it's usually where they're steering you to go because they know that you're going to lose. Yeah. And, I mean, when has anyone ever said this? When has anyone ever said that this team is too old in order to win a title? Now, I understand they're not the youngest team in the league, but I also understand that in the playoffs, experience tends to matter more than youth. People are saying this because they think, all right, because they're so old, that means they're more easily injured. That means they'll miss more games, especially given the injury problems that the Lakers ran into last year, just, across the board. So I think that that's a big part of the reason why people are saying this is because they expect them to break down during the regular season and struggle through the playoffs for that exact same reason. But rarely does that happen to a team 2 years in a row. And we know that experience always trumps youth in the playoffs. Now, if experience meets athleticism, that might be, that's kind of a tussle either way. It's kind of a tug of war. But experience actually helps you in the playoffs because you have so many guys, so many veterans who have been in all these moments, and the moment never gets too big for them. So there's never going to be a situation, especially LeBron James, who's won 4 titles with 3 different teams. There's never going to be a situation that he can't have his team prepared for. So it'll actually help them. So I don't understand why, just because of their age, people think that they're not going to be able to at least get to the finals, especially given that when you think about it, I really only see one team that they should have some healthy level of fear of in the West. Who? The Suns. Who's leader? The leader for that team is 36 years old?
Yeah, and his contract leads him into going into 40 years old as well.
Right.
Which the construct of his contract is actually kind of interesting. I'll talk about that another time. But no, I get where the skepticism. I think it's fair. And the only reason why I think it's fair for people to say that they're a little too old to win a championship is because this is not something that we've really seen before. Most of the time in history, in years past, when the older team is there, they usually, especially past 35, they fall apart and don't usually make it even that far. I mean, I look back. If I'm thinking about older guys that tried to do this, I'm thinking back to like the Rockets when they had Charles Barkley and Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley, Elijah Wan, and Scottie Pippen. They aged themselves out of it because you do start to fall apart a little bit more when you get older, even though people believe that it's because you're resting or quote unquote load managing. But I swear to God, they said they didn't load manage in the 90s. I'll digress on that. But we don't know how healthy this team's going to be. And LeBron basically made a statement about this. This is what he tweeted out. Then he deleted it, which I understand why he deleted it.
I don't understand. I never understand why people delete their tweets in this kind of context.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have, but he knew that he was going to just put a bigger target on their back, even though they already got a target on their back. Because he's LeBron James, he's got a target on his back. He was born with a target on his back. But anyway, keep talking about my squad. Our personnel ages, the way he plays, he stays injured. We're past our prime, our time in this league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do me one favor, please. And I mean, please keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. Hashtag thank you. Though he pointed out basically all the problems they have when he plays. So the question everyone asks first is, how is Russell Westbrook going to be able to work in this system because of the type of player that he is? I think he'll work just fine. I think he'd work just fine because he is a playmaker. And he will give LeBron and Anthony Davis an opportunity to take plays off. He can pick up the load that they don't have, they can't carry through the regular season. Because Westbrook, we know him as 0 to 100. He's 100 all the time. He goes from 0 to 100 really quickly, and he's always playing at 100% capacity. He doesn't have gears. He don't shift. He just goes. He's go, which is great during this regular season because it gives the team energy. It sparks up like the young players. But then in the playoffs, you see players fall apart from that. They start to slow down, wither, be injured, or they just run out of gas, a la James Harden. He stays injured. Anthony Davis lives injured. Kind of true. When's the last time he actually played 82 games in a season? I mean, LeBron's really only got one since he left Miami. So, yeah, it makes sense. And then, of course, Carmelo Anthony coming over there at his old age. Yeah. He's there as the, I feel like more of a veteran presence and someone that finally decided to take a step back role. If he took that step back role 3 years ago, Oklahoma City might have made it to the finals, but it's neither here nor there. I think it's fair that you can say that the Lakers might be too old, but today's NBA allows them to make it deep in the playoffs at this age.
Not only is this an old team, as people say, and I get that. They're NBA old, which I translate as experienced. But when you give a team like this, now this is a team probably, and since I've been watching basketball, I don't think I have ever seen a team with this many 30-plus-year-olds on the team. So this is something, and that's part of the problem.
In charge of the team.
That's part of the problem.
Right.
That's part of the problem. People are already writing them off. They're already putting them in the casket. They're already writing them off as too old. And we've never really seen a team like this, or it's been a very long time. So I think that that's unfair. So part of what people are doing, and this is going to work against them if they don't believe that they can win, is exactly what LeBron said, is giving them, that chip on your shoulder. Really what it translates to is energy to try to prove people wrong. So I think that when you have that type of energy, that helps you to lock in more as far as your prep, as far as rest, as far as taking care of your body. Now, are they going to have some injuries? Yeah, because every NBA team does. That's just a part of the rigors of what's going to be back to an 82-game season this year. But again, and this is why LeBron James talks about not getting his damn respect. Because people they just forget that he's on this team. It's like they say, okay, there's this 36-year-old. They're forgetting this guy has won 4 titles with 3 different teams and may actually retire as the best player the game has ever seen. So it's not like this is just any old team that we can just write off as not making it to the playoffs or first round. This is a LeBron James team. And I understand he's 36 years old, but he's got a lot left in the tank. And like you said, having a guy like Russell Westbrook will allow him to sort of load manage within the game.
Yeah.
Now, and so that's what that hinges on. It hinges on Russell Westbrook's fit with this team, as well as Anthony Davis. Can you play 75 to 80% of your games and go into the playoffs healthy? Because Anthony Davis he's in his prime. He still is someone who needs the offense needs to run through him. He is in his prime. He's 28 years old. He is in his prime.
That's the problem and I get the skepticism. I don't fully agree with it. I understand it though. It's something that I can grasp what they're saying. Anthony Davis, yes. So it's supposed to be in his prime at 28 years old. I think Anthony Davis is on the end of his prime at 28 years old, only because of his health. He just has not been able to stay healthy any year, in a long time. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense. If Anthony Davis can show us him being healthy throughout this entire season and making it deep into the playoffs healthy, I think they have a great chance. And I do believe bringing in a person like Westbrook, who works hard just like LeBron does in preparation for the season, taking care of their bodies, will actually spark something in Anthony Davis to where he's like, you know what? Let me get my stuff together even more so that I am prime with them. Same thing with Carmelo Anthony coming over there. Carmelo Anthony, we would see the Hoodie Mellow videos and everything, and then as soon as the season started, we'd be like, really? This is who you are? But his time in Portland really changed his mindset.
Yes.
And that made him a different person. And because of that, I think he's going to look at this and be like, you know what? Yeah. Let me go ahead and step back properly. Because, hell, the whole conversation was about him going to the Lakers for the last 2 or 3 years, and he ain't there yet.
True.
But now he is this year. And I think that's a reason. I think that mindset change, being in Portland, is what led to LeBron basically going to Pelinka saying, hey, man, go sign this dude. I think he's ready. I think he's ready to get this ring. I'm not going to bet against them, but I do think it's fair for people to say that they may be too old because, like you said, historically, we have not seen this. And we usually try to stick close to what history tells us. This is a new thing. This is a new era of basketball. We're now in the era of older players being able to play longer than they're supposed to be. We're still going to see the 40-year-olds. LeBron will be 40. He's going to be 40 on the court, period. He's 36. Him and Chris Paul will be playing for the next 4 years. Don't get it twisted. Unless they have a career-ending injury, knock on wood, they will be playing moving forward. So then we'll get to see something new. With that, I kind of like the idea of it. The other thing we like the idea around here on Unfair Sports is the news.
And now, Jimmy has the news.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, so Jay, over the weekend, the Olympics in Tokyo, the 2020 Olympics, came to a close with the USA in another dominant turn, winning the medal count 113-88 over China, who was number 2. The U.S., I believe, had the lead in gold, silver, and bronze. So total dominance across the board by the USA. So shout out to all the Olympic athletes who went over there under pretty difficult circumstances, competed, did the best that they could, no matter who it was, and essentially brought the U.S. sort of a victory, of an overall Olympic victory. Was there a particular event in the Olympics that you enjoyed that you didn't think you were going to enjoy as much?
No.
Did you watch any of the Olympics?
No. I feel bad. This was mentioned before by somebody. Actually, Bomani Jones mentioned this a few times over the last few weeks. Is that Team USA loses, we rip them. They're top of everybody's segment. They're everybody's A block, and we go dive into them deep. They win, we barely put them in the news. It's sad. The expectations are high, and I get that. But man, it's kind of I feel bad for them because as great as we knew that they are, we both said that they're most likely going to win. But there were concerns. We're just spoiled. We're spoiled. We are. A-holes over here in America. And that's all I can say about it.
All right. So next, so the Arizona Cardinals are going to become the first team. They're the first team to announce plans for a retail sports book at their stadium. I believe that's going to begin this season at some point, especially with the laws changing as far as legislating sports betting and it being more open from state to state, etc. So obviously we know that the Las Vegas Raiders are probably going to be the next team to do this for obvious reasons. But who do you think will be the last team to bring in a sports book to their stadium?
Ooh, Patriots.
I thought the same.
I'm thinking the Patriots.
Why Patriots?
Because I don't think they have a reason to. Like, there's certain teams. I don't think the Steelers. I don't think the Patriots. I think the Cowboys do just because Jerry Jones loves money.
Yeah.
More than winning. I look at the specific teams that don't need money, that are more traditional. I can see the Packers not doing it. They'd be at the end. Probably the 49ers, to be honest, which is kind of shocking when you think about it. But yeah. I say the Patriots probably the last one.
Yeah, I say the Patriots, but I also thought the Bengals as well, because what's going to happen is all their fans are going to bet against them in the stadium.
Going to short them every season.
They're going to short them so then they're going to be cheering against them, and then they're going to celebrate when they lose in their own home stadium, and they don't want any part of that possibility. So the Bengals are going to be the last team to have it. Goodell's going to have to force them to put them in there.
I see that.
All right, so lastly, some NFL contracts. You had Darius Leonard, inside linebacker for the Colts, 5-year, $98 million, which I believe is a record for an inside linebacker. Not sure about the guaranteed money. You had Xavier Howard, cornerback for Miami, renegotiate his contract and get more guaranteed money after threatening a trade. So here's the question, Jay. If you were in the NFL, you were a star player, how do you think you would go about getting a deal? Would you trust your team like Darius Leonard, or would you flex on them and force them to renegotiate like Xavier Howard?
So Leonard's got $52.5 million in guaranteed money. I'd flex. Why not?
You seem
if
like
you're
you do that.
That good, you know that they need to pay you. Why not say, "Hey man, pay me"? F you, pay me.
Pay me or trade me.
Pay me or trade me. I would totally tell them to pay him because that makes I would do that.
That makes perfect sense that you would do that. I would trust the team.
You would?
Yeah, I would trust the team. I would. I'm one of those, play out my contract type guys, or at least if we're going to negotiate, keep it under wraps. I'm not going to go to social media and request a trade. That's just
he's going straight to social
that's just not a part of my makeup.
He's going straight to social media.
I don't even do that now.
Anyway, wrap it up.
Lastly, all right. So Luka Doncic has finally agreed to the landmark deal, $207 million extension over 5 years with the Dallas Mavericks that we all saw coming. Very well deserved. I believe he was a first-team All-NBA player, which is a part of the reason why he was eligible for this. So do you believe that Luka will play out this contract without demanding a trade during any part of it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Same thing with him and Trae Young. They're not gonna. They're gonna play throughout those contracts. It's this first rookie extension. They always do. Is that it?
That's it. Snooze.
And that was Jimmy with the news.
Thank you, Bob.
You want to add something to it?
Well, I was going to say, I think that at some point he will, for reasons that I'll mention later on during the NBA segment, but I think that there's a possibility that at some point during the life of this contract, he will, not that he will be traded, but he will go the Xavier Howard route, which was for money. But I think Luka's going to request a trade for different reasons, and I'll get more into that later.
All right. One.
You know what you would call that look. All right, so Jay, moving on to the NFL, we are in one of my favorite times of the year, which is NFL training camps, preseason, just the utter anticipation of another fantastic NFL season, just football season in general, where you have college football just around the corner, as well as the NFL right after that. So with training camps, Jay, with the preseason comes competition, where starters become second stringers and second stringers become starters. So for one reason or another. So I've got a list of 4 different pairs, some competitions that are going on in camp, some of the bigger storylines of NFL training camp.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if it's fair or unfair that player A is going to lose their job at some point this season to player B.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go with it.
All right. So up first, fair or unfair? Jimmy Garoppolo will lose his job to Trey Lance.
That's fair. Definitely fair. You can tell by the way that Shanahan's been gushing over him in the pressers as well as all the articles being written. Trey Lance is definitely being primed to take that job by midseason.
I would say unfair. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo now understands the importance of staying healthy, of not trying to fight for the extra yard in week 3 when you really don't have to, because it kind of doesn't matter in the grand scheme of at least a 17-game regular season. So I think that Jimmy G, when he's healthy, he's 24-8 as a 49er starter, 36-12 as a starter just overall, including the New England year. So he wins 75% of his games when he is in there. So I think that he's going to work extra hard to stay healthy. He's put on some more muscle on his frame, which helps you a little bit. I think it's not everything. And I think that he's going to be more locked in than he ever has been. And I think that the 49ers are going to do all they can to support him, because if he gets knocked out by Trey Lance, especially early in the season, then that diminishes his trade value. So if their plan is to trade him at some point this season when they feel like the kid is ready, they want him in there. They want him playing the best football he's ever played, because then you can demand more in a trade. So taking the politics of it into account, I think that it's unfair to say Jimmy G will lose his job to Trey Lance this season.
Okay.
All right. Up next, Dallas Cowboy land, Leighton Vander Esch, their star linebacker. Is it fair or unfair to say Leighton Vander Esch will lose his job to first-round pick Micah Parsons?
Oh, yeah. Fair. Very much fair. I love Vander Esch. Love him. Love him to death. He ain't stayed healthy really the last few years. And because of that, you may as well go see what the young buck can do. I can see them putting together packages where they're both playing, if possible. I'll put them in with like a 3-4 setup. Yeah, I don't know. But I can totally see Vander Esch losing his job to Parsons.
I'm going to say it's fair as well, only because I think Micah Parsons is really that good. I don't think it would just be because Leighton Vander Esch doesn't. When he's in there, he plays well, and I think he's another one of those players who has to do all he can to stay healthy.
Yep.
But Micah Parsons he's a different breed. He's one of those who, in 3 or 4 years, he's going to break the Darius Leonard contract record if it isn't done before then. So I think that it's just because it's not so much Leighton Vander Esch not being good enough. It's just that they know Micah is going to be so much better in that spot, so they won't have any choice but to put him in there, because their defense is going to struggle in. I don't care that you got Dan Quinn. I don't care that you simplified things. You got to get your studs in there as much as possible. So the more Leighton Vander Esch plays, the less Micah Parsons is probably going to play.
Good point.
So I think eventually they're going to put him in there, so it is fair to say he will supplant him. Up next, Denver. Is it fair or unfair to say that Drew Lock will lose his job to Teddy Bridgewater?
He ain't already lost it? Fair.
It's 50-50.
Fair. There's no chance that Drew Lock, that Lock plays over Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is a much better quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's a very good, serviceable quarterback. He put up some pretty good numbers with Carolina without Christian McCaffrey. I think he threw for 3,800 yards or something like that. He had a pretty solid season. Probably not that much, but I know he had a really good season without him. So in my personal opinion, I don't see a reason why Locke would even play.
I would say fair because Denver and Vic Fangio, they look at their roster. They say, all right, we're getting Von Miller back and, Bradley Chubb. We have revamped our secondary with the draft. We have good receivers. We're getting Cortland Sutton back from an ACL. We have a good tight end. We've got a good stable of backs. Yep. All we need is for the quarterback. The quarterback doesn't have to win us anything. Nope. Just don't lose the game. So between our two quarterbacks, who's better at not losing the game? Teddy Bridgewater.
He threw for 3,700 yards last year without Christian McCaffrey playing.
So it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. They're just going to say, manage the game. You don't have to win it. Our defense will win it. We'll control the clock with the run. We've got good backs. One of them was a rookie, so it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. All right. Lastly, this is perhaps the most fun. Cam Newton in New England. Is it fair or unfair to say that Cam Newton will lose his job to first round pick out of Alabama, Mac Jones?
Oh, I'm gonna say it's unfair. I would love to say that Mac Jones is gonna take the job from Cam Newton. Mac Jones ain't Cam Newton. And the Cam Newton we saw last year is not the traditional Cam Newton that we've seen over the years. Things with COVID, and he talked about not having time with the playbook. He was mentally squirrely after having that Rona. So I think that having time with the playbook, and Belichick and McDaniels really likes him. Now, they gave themselves an out in the latest article I read in The Athletic talking about how they're liking how Mac Jones is developing, and he's playing really solid, and he's having a very good camp, meaning that if things don't work out with Cam Newton, he will go out there. But he does have a better chance than what Jarrett Stidham had.
Which Stidham just had back surgery, as a matter of fact.
So, definitely not going to take that job over Cam Newton, though. I think Cam's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season, and he will shockingly lead them to the playoffs. Can't wait for our preview show.
Okay, I'm going to say that is unfair to say, and primarily because as I look at the Patriots' schedule, there are a lot of W's on this schedule. And you know how the schedule tends to work out in terms of, in part, what your performance was the season before that. There are so many winnable games on the Patriots' schedule. It's almost guaranteed that they're going to be in the Patriots. They have to have one of the easiest schedules this season. And for that reason, I think that that's going to help Cam Newton. Now, I've never been the biggest Cam Newton fan. Right. I think that at times people make more excuses for him than they should. So I think that ultimately, yes, Mac Jones will have this job. I think that the second Belichick and Saban had one conversation about him, and that's all you need. And everybody knows Belichick and Saban are like this. Yeah. So he's going to take Saban's quarterback, who Saban helped to mold himself, and he's going to be his starter. It may not be this season. If it is, it will be only because Cam Newton got injured, but it won't be because of the record, because the Patriots are going to win the majority of their games just based on their schedule. So I think for that reason, it would be unfair to say that Cam Newton will lose his job to Mac Jones this season. No, I agree. All right, it's been a while. Yep. To resurrect it from the dead. The resurrection from the dead. Yeah. From the dead of our old school game, the $7 challenge. I love it.
Jimmy's got questions.
Which, let me ask you this, though, because you know how it comes to...
Jay's got answers.
Yeah, that was terrible.
You did well.
It's the $7 challenge.
Can I get a new voice clip? Because I feel like I sound like a teenager in that. That was from 2017, wasn't it? That was literally the first year, but it was so great, though. I can't. It was. Okay, fair enough. All right, so $7 challenge, resurrected like Lazarus. So those of you who aren't familiar with the $7 challenge, it is as it sounds. It is a challenge for $7 where I ask Jay or he asks me 7 questions, sports trivia related. You can play along as you watch this or listen to it. I'll give you 3 options for each question. You got to choose the right one. In order to win, you got to get 4 out of 7. You ready? I was born ready. All right. So this $7 challenge, Jay will focus on NBA MVPs. Okay. This is why I said a few minutes ago that it would have been better a couple of weeks ago. maybe a little bit longer than that. When was Jokic announced as the MVP? Was that like during the
second, third-ish, beard, mustache? Boy, I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah.
But anyway,
June.
Yeah, June. So I love MVP talk. All right, so you ready?
Go.
Question 1. Who is the only 6-time MVP?
Okay.
Is it Bill Russell, MJ, or Kareem?
Kareem.
Correct. How'd you know that?
Because that's part of his GOAT conversation.
That is
he's
true.
The only one that has 6.
That is true. Which should not be. Makes no sense. Jordan should have like at least 10 of them. But it's neither here nor there. Let's not have that discussion. All right, number 2. Which statement is correct? LeBron has more MVPs than Wilt. Wilt has more MVPs than LeBron. Wilt and LeBron have the same amount of MVPs.
LeBron is more.
Incorrect. Wilt and LeBron have the same amount of MVPs.
They both got 4, though.
Both got 4.
They both got 4. Dang it. I forgot Wilt did that 4th one. So
Yep.
Okay.
All right, up next. Who has more MVPs? Is it Kobe, Dr. J, or Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan.
Correct. Very good, Jay.
Yeah, no, I know that one.
Uh-huh.
Kobe only got 1. He should have 3, but yeah.
right.
We won't discuss that.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 4. Who was the very first MVP? This is from the 55-56 season. Was it Bob Pettit, Bill Russell, or Wilt Chamberlain?
Pettit.
Correct. Bob Pettit.
All right, I got 3 so
Number
far.
5, okay. You almost there. You got a 3-1 lead. Don't be Golden State.
Don't be Oklahoma City.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be the Clippers.
All right, number 5. Who has not won back-to-back MVPs? Is it Shaq, Tim Duncan, or Steph Curry?
Okay, we know the chef did. Oh, wow. This is actually a lot tougher, mainly because I'm trying to remember during those 2000 through the championship run, did Shaq win more than one MVP? And that's something I cannot remember. I know Timmy has multiple. I hate you. Tim Duncan.
Incorrect.
It was Shaq, wasn't it?
It was Shaq.
I thought so. Dang it.
All right, number 6. How many MVPs did MJ win? Was it 2, 4, or 5?
5.
Correct.
I do know that.
No game 7. Jay wins in 6. Knocks him out in 6.
Baby. Knock him out.
All right, so number 7, the game 7 would have been this. All right, Bird and Magic finished with 3 MVPs each.
Yep.
Who else did? Was it Bill Russell, Moses Malone, or Bob Pettit?
My understanding is Bill Russell wasn't respected like that to where he was winning multiple MVPs. Pettit was the first one. I don't know if he won more after that. Who was the other one?
Moses Malone.
Moses Malone.
Correct. 4 and 2, or really 5 and 2 when you think about it.
Take that.
Very good, Jason. Good start to season 5.
Yep. Yeah. You did well.
Knocks him out in 6.
Knocks him out in 6, baby. Okay.
Congratulations.
Gratitude. Speaking of gratitude,
there are a lot of.
Before we jump into that,
yes.
Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube. Those who are listening to us on YouTube or on the podcast, please like, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Go ahead and just give us 5 anyway.
Gift it.
All right, Jimmy.
Going back to the NBA. So we talked about the Lakers and their free agency moves and their roster overhaul, but obviously in NBA free agency there are multiple teams who look to upgrade their roster, make moves for whatever reason. So at the end of each free agency period, or after the 1 to 2 week rush is over, we are left with an understanding of who the biggest winners were and who the biggest losers were every time in NBA free agency. So first, what I want to know, let's go with the winners. You want to go with winners first or losers first?
I feel like we're winners, so we gotta go with the losers first and end with the winner. No. Winners first.
Winners first. All right, winners. Okay, so
shake and bake.
So what I did is I wrote down my top 3, the 3 biggest winners. I went from 3 to 2 to 1.
Okay.
as far as that goes. So do you have yours?
I do not, but I will go fair or unfair on yours and say if that's fair or not.
All right, fair or unfair. So 3 biggest winners in NBA free agency. My number 3, I have the Lakers. Because of not only the Russell Westbrook trade that I think ultimately will benefit this team dramatically, I think that the balls it took to have this complete overhaul of the roster and to reshape the roster this way, even though I think the roster is not as old as people think, because you have Kendrick Nunn, who's young, THT, who's young, Malik Monk, who's also young, and I think that's about it. Yeah. Everybody else is over 50.
Yep.
But
makes sense.
But I think that reshaping the roster, especially, and a big part of the reason why I like this is Kyle Kuzma. He post LeBron, he was just not going to work on this roster, and he hasn't worked on this roster. So it was time to move him. I think KCP, he was pretty solid, but he really wasn't a game changer for this team. He was a contributor. And Montrezl Harrell, I don't know what happened to him. I guess it was a bad fit as well, but he did not look like six man of the year Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah, so Trez didn't like 6 man of the year guy.
Right. So they all get a fresh start going to Washington, but primarily getting Kyle Kuzma off the roster. I think that really helps his team, especially in the crucial moments, because you replace him with the veteran. Most likely the veteran is going to make the better play. So for that reason, I say the Lakers are the third best winner, we'll say, of NBA free agency.
I can give you that. And the one thing that adds to what I like about what the Lakers did with this retooling, and this is kind of a testament to the greatness of LeBron, is the fact that he's been on so many teams where they've literally retooled everything around them. Just a couple of players as the main, and then you just figure out everything else, and they seem to figure it out every time. Whereas most of your champions typically build from the franchise ground up. They make acquisitions and trades, put pieces together, but they play together for a time. Like the only team that really has done that and won a championship without having time together, like time together, was this year's Milwaukee Bucks. And even think about it with the Phoenix Suns adding Chris Paul, they made it to the finals with the guy for the first time on the team, first year on the team.
Well, the Bucks kind of did that as well, because this was Drew Holiday's first year.
That's
with
what
the
I'm
team.
saying. They traded and added Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
So this is like between them and the Suns. This is the first time outside of a LeBron-made team that a team wasn't basically grown for 3 to 4 years together to win a championship.
So then this bodes well for LA. How you bring in, this big time free agent, this big time trade of
Westbrook, yeah.
Well, a point guard, basically a point guard who is a game changer, who has a really major impact on the game. And you saw how that worked for the previous 2 teams who did that. So maybe that can work the same way for the Lakers.
Good point.
All right, number 2, the Miami Heat.
I love what the Heat did.
Getting Kyle Lowry, obviously is huge for a number of reasons. It's not even just the fact that he can run this offense. It's the fact that he's tough, like Miami is. He's a leader. They didn't even need a leader. So then to have another leader outside of Jimmy Butler just probably it's going to make this one of the best led teams in the NBA.
He fits the Pat Riley aesthetic.
Perfect.
Player. And he takes charges, which I hate.
Yes. And he's a champion. He's already been where these guys are trying to go.
Yep.
Well, most of them, because they also added PJ Tucker, who whatever he does that doesn't show up on the stat box, outside of just his toughness, his willingness to take on the team's best scorer, at some point he's going to help the team. Yeah, especially in the Eastern Conference. Maybe he'll guard Giannis. That'll be interesting. As well as Markieff Morris, who, not to be confused with Marcus Morris, who's still a Clipper, who somehow found a way to become a fantastic three-point shooter. Maybe Markieff Morris can give them something like that. Yeah. But with Bam Adebayo, with re-signing Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, I think that they have their core. They know who they are. This will be the 3rd season that the majority of them have been together. So I think that this has to be looked at as one of the top 3, top 4 teams in the East. And what happened to them last season by getting railroaded by the Milwaukee Bucks is not going to happen again this year.
No. I think that they're going to give Milwaukee the fits that they gave them 2 years ago. This past season was a little different for the teams that were deep in the bubble. I'm going to say that.
Yeah. All right. So my number 1 team, the team who had the best free agency, I think, is.
I'm totally curious. I think I know who you're going to say, though. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to know, who do you think I'm going to say?
Chicago Bulls.
The Chicago Bulls. All right. So midseason trades, you get one All-Star, Nikola Vucevic, to go along with Zach LaVine, who is emerging as well as a perennial All-Star. So then you add someone who can run the offense and can run a more faster-paced offense, unlike what Chicago is used to, like Lonzo Ball. And then you bring in DeMar DeRozan, who's who can operate in the mid-range. So you have so many different ways to score now, and you have 4 capable starters that each team has to respect at all times.
Yeah, and then a lot of people were throwing shade at the DeRozan pickup because of him basically only shooting mid-ranges and he can't really shoot threes. And I'm just like, no, I think that's a good thing for them. I think that's a good thing for what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good mix. So I'm not gonna. I think adding Lonzo Ball with DeMar DeRozan and even added Alex Caruso coming off the bench.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think that's a fantastic pickup to go along defensively because I think Caruso's really good as a team defender. I think that's a good young core of players with the veteran in DeRozan that could potentially lead them to the playoffs. They can make it to the playoffs right for the first time in a few years.
No, they're going to make the playoffs. Were they in the play-in tournament? Is that where they were? I can't quite recall. But I mean, not that it matters now because they definitely have enough in order to be. I mean, if I looked at the East right now, I mean, obviously the Nets are going to be there, the Bucks are going to be there, the Heat are going to be there, but that 4 or 5 spot, maybe Boston, they can push Boston, I think, for that 4 or 5 spot. Now, I cannot recall who the Bulls coach is. Who's their coach? Is it Tibbs? No, he's in New York. Who's their coach? I have no idea who their coach is.
Billy Donovan.
That's why I don't remember who their coach is.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those really easy to forget. No, so they didn't make the play-in. They were the 11th seed, maybe because Zach LaVine was in COVID protocols.
Right.
But no, I think that they'll push the Pacers out, and I don't think the Wizards are going to make the play-in at all this year. Mm-hmm. So to be honest, I think that they'll ascend up there, and there may be a potential chance that they push one of these other teams out of the top 4, like the Knicks or the Hawks or something.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, I forgot about the Hawks too. God, the East is loaded. The East is, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. Like going back to the Lakers, that's what I'm saying. Like for the first time in who knows how long, the East is way more loaded and is going to be way more of a murderer's row than the Western Conference is going to be in the playoffs. So, but that's neither here nor there.
No, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
All right. So Lakers 3, Heat 2, Bulls 1. Honorable mention, the Wizards. I do like what the Wizards did, especially getting Spencer Dinwiddie. You get that haul from the Lakers, and they believe at this point that may be enough to keep Bradley Beal there. He's still the focal point of that offense. They're still not going to be. They're not a great team. They could be a pretty good team, but I do like what they did, as well as the coach, Wes Unseld, who I'm very high on because of his defensive and offensive coaching ability. And I do like the Pelicans' move to get Jonas Valanciunas, because if you pair Valanciunas with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, you probably have the best front court in the NBA. So I really like that move as well. And there were a few other teams who I think made some good moves as well. Did you have somebody else, another winner for free agency that I didn't mention?
Not really. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be truly honest. The Knicks look like they're trying to retool, but they just cannot attract a star, and I just don't understand why they can't attract like a big name star. They're the good thing for the Knicks is that they're becoming competent. I forgot who mentioned it. I think it was Monica McNutt that mentioned it on SportsCenter or on ESPN at one point.
I know who that is now.
Yeah. She's really good.
She had some summer league yesterday.
Yeah. And she. I think it was her that mentioned it, but and I think there's been a few people that said this. The whole point is the Knicks just need to be competent, and they're showing competence, and that may actually attract players to want to go there. I mean, they got Evan Fournier to come there.
Yeah.
On a 4-year fat contract that I thought was a little bit overpriced, but at the same time, it's not bad.
You're going to overpay for a shooter. That's just today's NBA.
That is true.
So then and Kemba Walker, I think
Kemba Walker is there.
He gives them leadership, because if you saw him in the playoffs against the Hawks, they looked like they had no leadership. Like they didn't know exactly. There was no one to sort of rally the troops in a sense. And I think that Kemba, especially being a New York kid, he can be that leader that they've been missing, whether he's on the floor or not.
Yep, young pups or whatnot.
Yeah. So those are winners.
Before we jump into that, just remind you, check out the YouTube page, check out the podcast, rate, review, like, and subscribe. So, losers!
The biggest losers. And when I mention these, Jay, you'll notice the theme amongst each one of them by the time I get to number 1. But top 3 losers in NBA free agency. Number 3, the San Antonio Spurs.
Ooh.
Losing DeMar DeRozan. And I think this is going to hurt more, losing Patty Mills. To champion Patty Mills to the Brooklyn Nets, which is brilliant for them in terms of what he can bring to the table. Yeah, lost Patty Mills. Yeah, Olympian. So, and not replacing them with really anyone other than your draft picks, which as a free agent, I mean, how hard is it to get people to San Antonio? It's not easy at all. So I think that they're going to be gunning for the first pick next year. I don't know who the early round of the top players are going to be coming into this draft next year. But I think whoever that is, there's a good chance that that individual is going to be a San Antonio Spur, because I don't see them winning many games with the roster that they have. I know DeJounte Murray is pretty good. Jakob Poeltl's pretty good. But outside of that, they don't have anything to threaten anybody. And this is actually starting to, some might say expose Greg Popovich. That maybe outside of having the Hall of Fame 3 that he have, or 4 if you count Kawhi, that maybe he's really not that good of a coach, especially given with, the USA basketball team, fantastic. They won a gold medal, but just the way that they played old. It's that San Antonio system. So maybe that is not attracting people to San Antonio. But either way, they did nothing to make this team better. They got worse, and they're gunning for a number 1 pick next year.
I mean, if they gun it, it'd be probably Chet Holmgren.
Yes.
He's the
Gonzaga?
Yeah, Gonzaga now. Yeah, He's Gonzaga. He was high schooler. He was pretty nasty on the court when I saw a couple of his games. But I think Chet is the consensus right now as far as the mocks go. I mean, it probably won't last. There's so many decent players in college right now that we're not sure of. Got a few of the G League Ignite guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
We're not sure what it's going to look like yet, but Bates, didn't he reclassify?
I think so. Yeah,
I think he did reclassify. So I think he's actually going to college now. So I don't know. We'll see what the draft looks like at that point. But San Antonio, I'm going to be in agreement with you on that. I don't think it exposes Pop. I think it's more so now for him to retool. He has to start from scratch again. He needs to go find himself 3 really good players that most likely aren't from the United States and make it happen. Because his big 3 last time were all, international players technically. So, true. Let's go.
All right, number 2, the Dallas Mavericks, who Luka has just signed his 5-year deal with that we mentioned earlier. And somewhat similar to that, I didn't see any acquisitions that would make Luka feel that this team is better, especially on a team where the player he hates the most, Kristaps Porzingis, who thinks
still there.
Is still there.
How is Kristaps Porzingis still there?
Because the league sees what Luka sees, that he thinks he's a 1, but he's actually a 3, a third option. And he just doesn't know it yet or isn't willing to accept it. But there was nothing that they did that was going to truly make this team better, because all Luka is thinking about now, I mean, forget the NBA Finals. He's just like, how can I get past the Clippers? Especially if at some point this season, I don't think they will, but if some point this season they get Kawhi back, how do I get past this team? 2 years in a row, they have knocked me out. I'm not waiting till I'm 27, 28, or 29 to go far in the playoffs. I want to do it right now. So there's nothing that they gave him that will help him to do that.
Well, the problem I see with Dallas is that their biggest issue is Luka Doncic. I'm gonna be real.
How so?
Luka is very ball dominant, and he does everything. And what happens with that? It wears you down in a 7-game series. That was basically the Clippers' strategy. Let Luka cook. He'll fall apart by it. As long as we get to Game 7, they're good. And that's what happened. And so the Mavericks have to add a player that can take the ball out of Luka's hands on a regular basis. Split the ball handling 50-50 so Luka has an opportunity to hop in the post or catch it on the side and hit the little step back. But he can't handle the ball nonstop, because no player in the NBA has ever been able to win championships always handling the ball. That's why it was Pippen and Jordan running point, and Kerr running point, and Paxson. There was a mixture of people running point. You can't have one person doing it. LeBron learned that a long time ago, which is why he really went. That's why he went to Cleveland and was okay playing with Kyrie, because he needed to be off the ball sometimes. And this is why the Lakers are going to work.
See, and this is what I don't understand about Dallas. And I do understand it. And I get this question a lot from people who talk about not only the Dallas Mavericks, but really the Dallas Cowboys. They say, okay, why can't they get big time free agents? I mean, you have this owner who's willing to do anything for you. Great facilities, top 7, top 8 city, plenty to do in Dallas, plenty of money there for you. No state tax, but yet they cannot get any free agents that have an impact. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing with the Cowboys as it is with the Mavericks. Players don't want to play for a rock star owner who wants to be front and center of the franchise and who's always hovering over the franchise on and off the court. They don't want to play for them.
I don't know about that.
How would you explain this? They didn't get a single free agent that makes a difference. How was that possible?
They didn't get a sniff. I mean, the Rockets rarely get a sniff. I mean, Pat Riley kind of hovers. Well, he's not an owner, but he's front office. But so no,
well, it's like Pat Riley is 12 or 15 rows back. Mark Cuban is right next to the bench.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, Ballmer is too, and they haven't attracted a single free agent.
He's a lunatic. I mean, I kind of like it. He's theatrical. It's funny to watch, but he's a lunatic.
He's a raging lunatic. Worth $100 billion too.
Ridiculous. Now, when they get that new stadium in Inglewood, things might change.
Yeah, I think players may reconsider. They're like, you know what?
He ain't that crazy.
I can deal with that. There's a little niceness there, but no. Right. I honestly, I don't think there's really an explanation to.
I'm telling you, it's the owners. It is the owners.
Be the rock stars, but he's known for taking care of his players, and the players love him because he takes care of them. Like, he babies them. He provides them everything you can imagine that players want. Like, they're pampered perfectly as professional athletes, and until to this day they can't. Hell, nobody wants to go down to Houston and deal with Tillman for some reason. Well, I can see why I want to deal with Tillman, but James Harden spilled the beans on that. So,
right.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay.
All right. Number one, biggest loser in NBA free agency, and I told them not to do this. They did it. They did exactly. Honestly, they did exactly what I told them not to do, but what I told them that they would do, and that's the Portland Trailblazers, who had no draft picks, so no help there. And again, not a single impact free agent. They did re-sign Norman Powell, who I really like. I think he's a good player. But outside of that, I don't see anyone that they picked up that will not so much not have an impact on the court, but that will convince Dame that this team is aggressive, that they're all in, that they're going to find a way to get better players next to me along with what we have so that we can compete in the West. Since I'm telling you, Jay, a lot of people see this. They see the West is wide open because they don't think that Phoenix can do what Phoenix is not going to surprise anybody. With a target on your back now, it's going to be a lot harder for you. They say the Lakers are old. Nobody's threatened by Utah. Kawhi's not going to be with the Clippers. Jamal Murray is out for the Nuggets. So they look at the West as wide open. So to Dame, this is the perfect time for the franchise to be all in, be hyper aggressive. Pay the luxury tax if you have to, and they did absolutely nothing. Unless I'm missing somebody.
Yeah, no, you're not missing anything. What do you think about them trading for Porzingis? McCollum for Porzingis? Because this thing about Porzingis, this is the one thing I see about the unicorn.
Okay.
If you get him the ball in spots, he could be productive and put up 20-something.
True.
The problem is that with Luka, he literally has the ball all the dang time. Well, that was where the beef came in for him, is that he didn't feel like he was getting the ball in his spots. I mean, why would Luka give you the ball though, bruh? He's Luka. But that's an idea. You're right. They did not put or do anything around Dame like they needed to. They need to find a way to get a trade going. That's when the problem. They need to trade something.
Exactly.
Trade somebody.
Something.
Ship something out.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen.
Furniture, cash considerations.
Yeah,
stocks.
Hey, that's a great player though, man. Cash considerations, man. That dude, he's been moving around a lot, but hey, dude produces. He produces something. So take cash considerations and go get you somebody. I don't know.
So yeah, Spurs 3, Mavericks 2, Portland 1. It's going to be a tough season, I think, for all three of those teams for this reason. Unless they can pull something off at the trade deadline that nobody sees coming, they're going to struggle.
I agree. I totally see that. Good list, Jimmy. I'm actually impressed with that. So, with that, before we do what's on the editing room floor, as we're going very long today, few changes, of course, with the show. You'll see some adjustments over the next few weeks as we prepare for the football season. I wanted to make sure to give you guys that heads up, just because we're going to retool things. We're going to add some additional content, do some more sports betting and fantasy sports conversations. You'll see more videos and more content on the YouTube channel, as well as clips on the Facebooks and the Instas and the Twitters, just so you guys can pick your poison with that. Podcast will be loaded up, of course, every week, as we usually do. We'll have our Frozen 5 coming through. We're going to do a Thunder Weekly. We'll talk Thunder basketball. We won't do it this week, but we will bring that soon, because we actually have a question. Trying to figure out what the hell Sam Presti's doing and see if we can crack the code. This is going to be a fun conversation, especially as the Summer League is going on. So with that, Jimmy, what is on our editing room floor?
All right, Jay, my favorite running back, or at least one of my favorite running backs, probably is my favorite running back for the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley, coming off that ACL surgery, it was activated today.
Yeah,
so he should be participating in camp as usual, hopefully with few to no restrictions. So if you had to predict what Saquon Barkley's stat line was going to be this season, what would you say as far as rushing yards, touchdowns, and receptions?
I think he's going to run for, if he stays healthy, knock on wood, I can give him about 1,300 rushing yards.
Okay.
Probably about 10 to 12 touchdowns. I think the big thing is, though, he may catch around 40 catches this year. He may actually see more and more passes thrown his direction. So I'm going to give that prediction. This is a very conservative stat line for a guy that should be giving us about 1,900 yards rushing. I'm going to go with 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 44 catches.
Okay, I like that. I agree with that for the most part. I would say I would probably top him out more at the 1,150 yards, only because some of his carries are going to get restricted, but I think a lot of those will get converted into receptions. So I might go maybe 60 receptions. You would say 4 to 5 catches a game.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think I'm really going to use him like that?
Yeah. So I can
switch it from handoffs to catches in the flats and
I can see that, and then I would say 10 to 12 touchdowns as well. But I think that Daniel Jones, they're going to have to force him to throw more to see if he really can be the quarterback and see if he can take care of the ball. Because Saquon could actually cover up his stink if Saquon is back to being spectacular, and then they don't know until it's too late that Daniel Jones is still a turnover machine.
That's a good point.
Yep. All right, so up next, so we have the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, over the weekend. 2 classes inducted. One from 2020 who wasn't able to be inducted because of COVID, were inducted on Saturday, headlined by, let's see, Steve Atwater, Paul Tagliabue. You got it. You got it pulled up.
I got it pulled up, but that was a great group of people.
Yeah,
good old Atwater. God, isn't it crazy how Atwater was able to make it to the Hall of Fame? Playing the way he played, where today he would never make the Hall of. He actually wouldn't last in the NFL.
He would make no money because he would get fined every week for something.
Every week for the levels he would.
But outside of Ronnie Lott, being a 49ers fan, he was my second favorite safety. Anytime I played a game, no matter what it was, I would always try to user Steve Atwater. Because it's just the high shoulder pads, man, and just the hits, that Christian Okoye hit that he's legendary for, somebody who nobody could tackle. He was the Derrick Henry of his day, just laid him out. I mean, just cemented his Hall of Fame legacy, and they showed that clip plenty of times. I don't know how Christian Okoye felt about that, but anyway, that was the 2020 class. 2021 was headlined by Peyton Manning. You had Megatron, you had Marjorie James, you had Troy Polamalu, John Lynch, and making an appearance, Jay, was Harvin Marison. I don't know if you saw him.
I don't know who you're talking about.
I don't either.
Never heard of him.
So of the Hall of Famers that went in, who would you say is your favorite or one of your favorite players just watching them as you were growing up?
Oh, I love Edge. Oh, actually, if there's any of them, Charles Woodson.
That's ridiculous.
Right, Woodson. Charles Woodson was ridiculous. He was ridiculous at Michigan, winning Heisman. I actually was going to apply to go to college at Michigan because of Charles Woodson. That was the only reason why. Even Desmond Howard, much as I enjoyed him, Charles Woodson was the reason why I wanted to go. Because Charles Woodson was ridiculous. Won the national championship, won the Heisman on defense.
So I'm saying, can we please get another Heisman winner on defense? Can we please? What do we have to do to get that?
You gotta be really good at returns too. Because that's how he got it. I mean, he's a ridiculous return man, while being a ridiculous defender.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever see that again.
All right. Lastly, and I thought this was kind of funny, Jay. So everybody knows about the shooting woes of Ben Simmons, and I know that there's a possibility he could be traded by the Sixers. But there was a video, a new workout shooting video of him with his shooting coach, and for some reason Rajon Rondo was in this video, and fans are not having it at all. So amongst some of the funnier tweets that we've seen from this video, people commenting on it, is, let's see, Dan Roshi, who says, "This is the sign on the wall at the bar that says free beer tomorrow. You go into the bar the next day and the sign doesn't change. Tomorrow will never come." This one. Another one says, this is Kurt, says, "Going to throw any device on which I can watch footage of Ben hitting threes in a practice gym into a nearby body of water." So clearly these are all Sixers fans who have seen these videos before over the last 3 to 4 years. So knowing that, why do you think Ben continues to post these videos? Actually, I just figured out why, but why do you think it is? For who?
For trades. He wants someone to believe that he's willing to shoot the ball. And I don't know why.
I'm telling you, here's what they should do. Whether it's the Sixers or somebody else. Add a clause in Ben Simmons' contract to where you pay him $10,000 for every miss and $5,000 for every make. Why, Jimmy? Why does that make sense? Why would you pay him more for missing than for making? Because if he gets upset or if he gets in his head less about missing, then he will shoot more and then there will be more makes. But you just want him to shoot. You just want him to shoot because he can make your team a laughingstock on his own by not shooting the ball.
Shoot.
Right.
Shoot. It's basically all you
and
want. And
passing up free dunks. Now, who's going to trade for him? Oh, Portland, where you at?
I mean, you may as well go after him.
You wouldn't be losers anymore.
You can start over with Ben Simmons and then send Dame to Philly.
Ooh. Which makes the East even more stacked. But either way, Ben Simmons, he should be nicer to his team, actually. I mean, they have suffered through this with him all this time. So they say he's cut off all communication from the team. So whatever.
I mean,
he's a
why
weird
would
dude.
You talk to people?
He doesn't talk to anybody, honestly. He's kind of like Kawhi. He doesn't really talk to anybody.
That's a good point.
Anyway.
All right, well, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports. Please check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like, subscribe on the YouTubes, as well as share, because why? Sharing is caring. So, for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for sticking around, helping us get through this bad boy. Co-host Jimmy, just share. But no, football's coming, so we're pretty excited. We've got Hard Knocks on Tuesday.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Well, if you'll be listening to this, Hard Knocks will be tonight.
Yep.
Because this was recorded on Monday night, so Tuesday morning we'll have Hard Knocks on Tuesday evening. We'll talk about that next week because that is definitely worth talking about. Because why? It's the Cowboys, and we've got to talk about more.
Something's going to go wrong.
Exactly. So with that, we will chop it up with you all in a few days.
Peace.
Peace.